spot, so we're good.
Okay.
Well, okay, welcome to the first Energy Committee meeting of 2024. Do we have any members of the public that we can introduce? I guess we don't. Anyway, we're meeting today, and present are Bob Palmieri, Mike Duffy, Sandy Cashin, and Amanda Lima. And I'm Joyce Flynn.
I'm sorry, Matt.
I'm your Oprah. Barry, hello. I'm still not seeing the thing for Barry. This is weird. Okay, so we have a quorum, and we're going to jump right in. Do we have any edits for our secretariat of Bob and Sandy for the minutes?
Yeah, Sandy gave me a correction. I hope, can you do that, Sandy, or do you want me to do it?
I can.
Okay.
I just had one little aesthetic correction, which when you mention Amanda up in the top and you have the bold face, like to give her category, that you might want to make that go over to the left margin to set off her name and her title.
Yeah, okay. That's I pondered that whole where to put her thing for about 30 seconds. And the way we got it set up, she doesn't seem to have any set place.
Well, we can either put her at the very beginning of the members as our town liaison, or we can put her right after the members, but give her her own line. And Amanda, would you prefer to be known as town engineer or town liaison for Energy Committee? Seems to me you probably studied more years for engineer.
Yeah, I think if you did, usually it's like town engineer, comma, and then like town liaison and like italicus or something. Usually you put both, but so then they know which department.
Oh, okay.
It's up to you guys though.
Andy, that seems like something that we could do.
All right, so we're going to do Amanda Lima, town engineer, town liaison. Is that how?
Oh, Amanda.
Did he spell
Sorry, I didn't hear that,
liaison
Mike.
correctly?
I was asking, where'd you go to school?
Oh, UMass Lowell.
Hey, well, so it sounds like that won't be a problem. That'll be easy to do, and that'll make it less confusing when people see your name, like that it was on the draft. Any other edits for the minutes?
Just the town of Barnstable. He put T of Barn.
Yeah, I forgot to remove the shorthand that I had originally written.
Okay, so we'll give full respect to our neighboring town. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that the minutes be accepted as amended.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, nay? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay, so Sandy abstains?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess that's 4-0-1, the way they count the abstentions. Okay, next item is town energy. Amanda, did all sorts of exciting things come down the chimney with new energy devices for the town?
Nothing in the last month. Same updates as last month in regards to making progress with the senior center. It'll take about 3 months, as short as a couple weeks, in order to get the tie over with Eversource once they've completed their work. And yeah, I think with the holidays, everything has been a little quiet.
Okay, well, the 3 months might really work though, because Bob, weren't you thinking it would be nicer if it were warm weather for any
Yeah,
welcome party celebration?
I checked the senior center calendar, and then the big event that I was talking about is on May 17th. It's the health fair that uh, having on May 17th.
Oh, okay.
So we would uh, presumably have to have it either in April or in June. I'm thinking maybe June. What do you think, Barry? Would June be better in terms of us being able to get, you know, everything ready that we would want to be gotten ready? I
Also,
mean,
also seems
April,
like better, if it's a indoor outdoor event, weather will be better. So yeah, June sounds good.
yeah. And April, we've got town meeting. If we want to be doing anything on the stretch code, we've got town meeting in what, the first week in May? Or is that town election? I can't remember.
It's always 1 week before the town elections.
So that's the last weekend in April, yeah, it was May 5th, I think, for some reason sticks in my head as town elections.
Okay.
By the way,
So,
there are some important elections going on this year, which may determine the future of the town's leadership.
What, Bob? Can you say
Yeah.
more?
No, no, no. I just noticed that. I mean, there are two positions up for two of the select board positions are up. I can't even remember. It was a couple weeks ago that I looked at it, and I can't remember who's Dan Horgan and Peter
and
Smith.
Peter Smith, yeah. And Peter Smith has been quite ill. And there's a chance that Dan Horgan might choose to do something at the county instead of Board of Selectmen. But I mean, I don't know. That's just a possibility. So, I mean, it might be really important to think of people who would make good members of the select board and start annoying them now.
My problem is all the Yarmouth people I know are either dead or about to about to climb into the grave.
Hmm.
Gee,
Well,
thanks.
no. Oh, go ahead.
Present, the committee is
Nothing's
excluded
excluded.
from that comment.
Oh, well, that's a relief to all of us. We did wonder. Okay, so there's not much to report from the compact. Our rates did get announced. They're better than the Eversource basic rate. And they run for 6 months, but there's interesting pressure on the DPU, which had originally ruled because the utilities demanded it, that the compact have a 6 month period like the utilities did for their rate change. So it would be an apples to apples comparison for rates and for service. And now the utilities are thinking of shifting to shorter time periods, like 4 months. But the compact would have to go through a number of hoops to be able to match that. So that'll be something to monitor, because I think it's been very easy for people to remember that 1 6 month period is going to cost a lot more because it has January and February, and potentially the storms. But that time period may not stay with us very much longer.
Is there any talk about the effect that Vineyard Wind electricity being bought by Eversource and National Grid at 7 cents a kilowatt hour is going to have on the rates that they then charge, here on the Cape?
I would love to think it would make a difference, because they got in on the bargain basement rates before inflation and, the pandemic and everything drove prices out of control. But I don't actually know how much that will affect it. It should have some downward pressure on rates, and rates for low income people should get a lot of downward pressure from Eversource's own installation back behind their headquarters building, because that's going to be a pretty big provider as well. Nothing to compare to wind turbines, but a lot.
Can they resell that electricity anywhere they want at whatever price they want, or do they have to resell it at the price they're buying it at?
They can certainly do markups for their customers, but I don't think that they'll be allowed to share that that pricing and the virtual electrons that come at that price with anybody outside the state of Massachusetts.
So they can't sell it to Connecticut Power or Pepco,
Yeah. Yeah.
down in the Washington area?
Nope. And that's Vineyard Wind is different in that than some of the later contracts were going to be. But Vineyard Wind, because Massachusetts forced them to sign this agreement and got them all roped in, I believe that Vineyard Wind can only be used, the power, in state.
Now that's gonna
Well, let me take
power up a lot of
part.
homes.
The part that was contracted for, the state demanded that they contract for a minimum amount that was a huge amount. So only that amount can only be used in state. I suppose anything above that might possibly be used out of state if they found it useful to do that. But a big chunk of that has to be used in state.
Unless Eversource and National Grid have any investments in the LNG plants here in the state, I should think that it would behoove them to seriously lower the rates here in Massachusetts and take the wind out of the sails of the anti-winders.
Well, I would love it.
Janice Kubiak wages a lonely fight on the social media that I follow. She really does.
Yeah. Well, and even bringing up the saltwater intrusion this week that comes with climate change, and reminding people that they won't be able to drink their water because it's very hard to get the salt out of the water once it makes, inroads. But yeah, I mean, I admire that she does that, and she's doing a good job. And I wish she'd moved back to Yarmouth. Remember, she lived in West Yarmouth for a while, and we had her right here. But now downtown, I believe, means downtown Hyannis always.
Yeah. But
So
these anti-winders now coming up with all these theoretical dumping, leaks of the cooling fluid. I mean, it's just, there must be some gnome in the cellar of the Koch brothers thinking up all of these things. Really, some of them are just so off the wall. If you talked about them like you do, getting into a car and driving down the street, you'd never get into a car, for fear of being killed.
you've got that cooling fluid, you've got that oil, you've got that gasoline. Ooh. And then if you have an EV, you've got electricity, which is really scary.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I have to tell you guys, by the way, the new nonfiction books at South Yarmouth have a book that you'll all want to queue up and check out. Electric Cars for Dummies. Isn't that perfect? And it's written by a guy named Brian Culp, who owns a Tesla, a Lucid, and also he points out that he owns still, despite having aged out of it, the home run record at Kansas State University. So there you go. You know, some winter reading for your next nor'easter.
We're in the market, I think I may have mentioned this, our 2000 Corolla finally, as my mother-in-law used to say, amortized its value and is now on a ship to Africa to be used as spare parts. So we're in the market. I made the mistake of going on the Toyota website, and now every salesman at Ira Toyota is trying to get a hold of me to sell me a new. I've decided we're going to try to go with a plug-in hybrid, and trying to get one at a decent price is not easy these days.
Susan Starkey and her husband bought one of those. If you wanted to ask Susan, you know, for advice on that.
Oh yeah, I've had conversations about that. In fact, when she first did it, she was having problems with figuring out how much they were saving, and we had some discussions about, because the electric bill doesn't differentiate between the plug that the line that
Oh,
you use
yeah.
to fill the car and
Everything else.
everything else in the house.
Well, if any of you are interested in attending Compact meetings, let me warn you that this month's has been postponed. It's usually the second Wednesday of the month, so that would make it the 10th. But because there are all sorts of meetings, energy meetings in Boston that Maggie and some staff have to be at, the next Compact meeting is going to be on the 24th, which is a Wednesday, and it's at 2 p.m. and at Compact headquarters. But that's very strange. That's a fourth Wednesday. So in case any of you were going to drop in January, you know, that's your date. Okay, any questions about the Compact? Okay, well, let's move right along to Mike's presentation then. Mike, thank you so much for sending copies in advance, and such attractive copies, like, you know, with the blue contrast. I mean, I was glad to see that, like, I could see where my name was and where I was being volunteered, and that was highlighted with the color contrast. So take it away, Mike. We're dying to know what we need to do.
That's why Mike gets the big bucks from the Fusion people.
Can I share my screen?
You
Sam?
can.
Yep. Yes.
Let's see. Where do I, down, okay, down the bottom here. You got it?
Yep.
Okay. Ooh, how about that? Technology is wonderful when it works. Let me see. I forgot how to unblock some of this on my screen. What? Did you lose it?
It just went sideways, that's all.
Okay, see, all your pretty pictures are blocking half of my. Oh, there.
So we should all delete ourselves.
Slideshow. Let me see if slideshow works there. Participant is enabled closed captioning. Somebody do
That's
that?
That's
Yeah.
for the town, for hard of hearing people when they replay this.
But you can just cross it out. You can just click it.
You still see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, with a
Okay.
little orange thing in front of it.
Give subtitles a try.
What? It looks perfect on my screen here. Oh, wait a minute. Get subtitles across. That's over on, I'm multitasking here, so I don't know what the heck. Anybody know anything about that? I certainly don't.
I
All
don't
you do is turn it on or I figure out some way of clicking it off, I guess.
Let's say if I switch the page. No, it's not even letting me switch the page.
Oh,
Go
there-
away.
Whatever you did just cleared it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at our very old plan, which was what, 2021, over 3 years ago, I guess we put this thing together. And didn't accomplish much. Just to refresh your memories, we had 6 tasks with certain specific actions here, identified responsibilities. I don't know, I'll present what I accomplished out of these tasks. I don't know if anybody else accomplished anything, but there's task 4, 5, and 6. Basically, the early stuff that needed to be done was building the database that we would use as the baseline for which we would measure our progress by 2025. And
Mhm.
and basically, at the time we did this, that baseline was going to be the 2019 or 2020. This data I had actually put together. Not at the, I don't know if it was at the time of producing the report, but shortly thereafter. So this is real data. Got from the MEI, which is what, Mass Energy Insight? Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I tried to get back on that, and not surprisingly, my username and password have expired. And so if I want to get back on that, I have to have somebody at the town write a letter, put me on it. I'm not sure who, somebody did that in the past. I can't remember who it was, but Sandra, did you know by any chance? I don't remember. But
I don't
is that
remember.
something
It was-
Amanda can do?
It was probably Richard.
Oh, Rich Bienvenue. Yeah.
No, maybe.
Amanda, is that something you'd be able to do for Mike?
If you're talking.
Yeah, we can talk about it offline. And I don't know if I'll be the best resource, but I can at least help dig. We've got a new finance director. Her name's Jennifer Cullum. So she might be able to assist as well. I can at least we can talk off base and dig into it a little bit further.
Amanda, do you interact with Mass Energy Insight?
I don't. I don't know if Jeff Colby had access at one point. I know that some Maria had reached out to us from Cape Light Compact asking us for information. And I know he had responded. So yeah, we can figure out that information.
What we'd like to be able to do is expand this table for certainly fiscal year 21, 22. Fiscal year 23, did that ended June 30th? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've
So-
done some changes on their site. I know that. I haven't used it in a while, but there's been some big changes.
All right, maybe they have that through FY 2023 now. I don't know. Anyway, would like to collect that information in this particular form, and which usually requires some mathematical gymnastics to go through the data and get it into this form. But at any rate,
But we
So-
have confidence in you.
well, that's good to know. So what I have done in addition to that, getting ready for today's presentation, was the Yarmouth vehicle energy usage. Thanks to Barry for giving me the links to basically get on here and figure out how to basically create all this information for Yarmouth. Basically, what's to be derived from this? Well, fossil fuels basically account for 96.5% of the vehicles. And close to 96% of the miles traveled. If you look at the average daily miles driven, it's interesting that the people in their hybrids and electric vehicles tend to drive more than the fossil folks. That's interesting.
Huh.
Among those, plug-in hybrid and electric are pretty much the same. Hybrid electric drives a little bit more. And of all of those kinds of vehicles in Yarmouth, the hybrid electric is the majority of it, 687 of those versus 70 odd for plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles. So anyway, that's vehicles registered as of January 1, 2023. If we were going to stick with our previous annual operating plan, we would want to basically be able to get those by, gee, I don't know, maybe January 1, 2024 would be okay, because that would be FY 2025, right? So anyway, that's to be decided. That's to be decided, but this is good data right there. Everybody got a copy of the stuff I sent out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it
So
right
you-
here.
Okay, so next thing I did was I looked at this Massachusetts Clean Energy and Climate Plan for 2050 to see what kind of goals they wanted. And if I look at that, one of their top goals there is to recognize.
Good night. Thanks for leaving me out. Sorry. They were all saying good night. Sorry. Thought I was muted.
Okay, so the Commonwealth recognizes the largest source of these greenhouse gas emissions is basically transportation, which is basically 42%. You look at the 2025 and 2030 goals, you can see that. And so obviously what I would say is if they want a goal in 2025 of an 18% reduction, they say from 1990, that's going pretty far back. But at any rate, I would say, okay, we'll do our fair share, and that means we'll try to reduce ours by 18% as well. Right?
Mhm.
I don't know how we would ever determine what that was in 1990, the actual emissions from vehicles within Yarmouth in 1990. I don't imagine we'd ever be able to get that information, but I guess we could say, okay, we'll take the if we could do 2020, but I'm not sure. Well, the last one of course, we showed there was January 1, 2023. I don't know how we'd figure out exactly what a goal in reduction from January 1, 2023, what our fair share of that goal would be. What it would require is collecting more of this data and looking at it and deciding what we want to do. But they had a number of strategies in that plan. And I grayed out the first two up there about electrification of vehicles for hire, electrification of delivery trucks, and said, okay, what can we do in Yarmouth? Well, maybe we can work on the electrification of school buses. And if you look at that, there's basically three potential sources for getting funding. I don't know what IIJA is, but it's a federal resource that may be available to get some funding from. Our old friends, Mass CEC, which I certainly won't deal with, but Joyce seems to have a very good relationship with them.
I try.
Maybe they would partner with us on the school district and school bus fleet, and also just the other infrastructure and technical support to the Yarmouth schools. So there's a few potential resources. We go down to the
My-
next Well-
Can we just stop for a minute so we can check in with Sandy, who might be able to answer your questions about how much electrification of school buses there's already been? Because I don't know, but she might.
Sure.
I-
and
I
speak
don't
up.
think there's any, but there's someone in Yarmouth who contacted me last year when I was in New Hampshire. He is working on that with the school district. I forget who he was. I'll have to go back in my notes. But since I've been out of there 2 years, I have no idea. And we outsource the buses. So there
Mhm.
are a few that we own, but most of it comes from the bus company, 5 Star, whatever they are.
Was the person that contacted you either a school employee or a town employee? Or
No.
outside contractor?
No, it was somebody who dealt with the energy. I don't know if I met him during one of Liz Argo's meetings. I just can't remember.
So
he
you
was-
think he was asking because he wanted to sell his wares to the
No,
school?
nope, he wasn't trying to sell anything. He was trying to get the buses on the Cape to be electrified. But he said it's a tough battle
Why?
because it's outsourced and we don't really have control of it. So if they go out on an RFP and demand that these buses are, I think Nauset has electric buses.
Oh. It's good that there's a district that is also like a regional district rather than a town district, that we could kind of check in to see how that's worked out.
And I know that Martha's Vineyard has it, and they had some real big troubles with them. So I can work with you offline, Mike, and maybe get in touch with those individuals.
There's a guy in Sandwich who has been
That's the guy he's from Sandwich.
yeah, so Tom Dorney or something like that, who's been agitating for electrification of the school buses across the Cape for a couple of years now.
I'm pretty sure that's the
I
guy.
know I have his contact info somewhere.
Okay, well, once we figure out exactly where we're going from here, we can sort that out. Okay, down the bottom there about another strategy that the state is proposing is to provide grants to community organizations to reduce transportation emissions. And they, as you can see, I bolded Act for All program, whatever that is, EEA, whatever that is, and our old friends Mass CEC again. So there's 3 different organizations there that might be receptive to getting proposals from us or the town of Yarmouth or something, so to be able to get some funding so that we could do some of these things. And by some of these things, I think it's mainly outreach, which I'll get into here in a minute.
The EEA is Energy and Environmental Affairs, which has a cabinet secretary, but I have no idea what that other thing is, the For All thing.
I don't know either.
Sounds like an NGO of some sort.
Well, I think it's a CEC grant program. That
Anyway, those will be easy enough to find should we decide to pursue them. Under their strategy T5, which is to build electric vehicle charging stations and encourage smart charging. Again, I shaded out the first 3 things that they had under there. I don't think we wanted to worry about putting charging stations along Route 6 in Yarmouth. Maybe we could. Or direct current fast charging deployment, charging for all new buildings. I didn't think we were interested in that, but we might be interested in smart charging for residential homes.
Does
And
anybody know who is in charge of the park and ride parking lots where both myself and Joyce have seen EV chargers already in existence? Who do those parking lots, whose jurisdiction do they come under? Is it the town they're in, or
I
is it
think
Mass DOT? Yeah.
I think they're owned by the state, but certainly if you get a parking ticket in the Barnstable Park and Ride, you pay it to the town of Barnstable. Not that I'm admitting anything.
Okay, at any rate, you know, there might be a possibility for getting some funding out of the state to look at the smart charging here. So next strategy, T6, was to engage consumers and facilitate the markets. Again, I shaded out the top one there about fleet operators considering transition to electric vehicles. I didn't think we wanted to mess with that. But outreach and customer support. If we learned anything from the Solarize program, I think it was how to do outreach and customer support. At least Joyce learned a lot about customer support. I don't think any of the rest of us. But we did do a lot with regard to outreach. I know I've got a database of virtually every resident, every house in Yarmouth and what they're using for heat, for instance, gas, oil, electric, blah, blah. So name, address, heat, all that. So, you know, we can segment that any way we want, and we want to go do some outreach and things. Again, Mass CEC, I guess, I don't know, they did such a wonderful job with our Solarize program. I guess the states could still giving them a lot of money to do stuff with. Anyway,
Remember, we have Cape Light Compact to help out on a lot of this stuff, I think. Is that right, Joyce?
yeah,
Yeah, it takes advanced planning though, because they have to include it as a strategy in their 3-year plan that then goes through all sorts of approvals. So they can't turn on a dime, but they'd be very interested in a lot of these goals.
can't we find out from them who has had energy assessments and who has not?
They couldn't give us the list because that would violate electric customer confidentiality, but they could certainly give us numbers and data, and they could break that down into census tracts.
Well,
Could
we
we
would
go-
want to
could we-
know so that we could contact the individuals, drive
Could we
them.
go, could we
energy.
go straight to Rise on that?
Well, Rise would be bound by the confidentiality stuff too, because they'd be only in touch with these people because they were electric account customers.
Does Cape Light Compact send out things to these people? Individuals
Oh,
who not,
There you go. They send out they don't send out things that often through the mail, but they do have a newsletter that comes out on some kind of irregular schedule. That's an email newsletter that they also have the ability to blast messages. So I think that for anything that looked like there were shared goals, they'd probably be willing to do something, you know, with email.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've talked to Maggie a lot about this category of stuff because the compact is all in on supporting outreach efforts.
Yep.
They'll send people, you know, to talk at any group that's gathering around it. They don't have an organizing staff, so they're not going to create the outreach opportunities, and they don't have a lot of great data on the penetration, the historic penetration of the energy assessments, because we've tried to pull that out, and there's a variety of data. It doesn't actually answer the question of how many people have, what percentage of homes actually have had energy assessments, and especially what percentage of homes that have had them have implemented them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure they don't have a systematic way of being able to identify customers who, you know, have outstanding assessments they haven't acted on. They would love to do that. That's just like it's not their wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay,
there's a great difference between an assessment which says pump in insulation and another one which says you'd be well off buying a heat pump system because, while there's money to pay for the insulation and some of those kinds of conservation areas, the money for heat pumps comes out of the mass is only rebates and loan guarantees, if I'm not mistaken, out of the mass save program. Am I right on that?
Well, um, yeah, but for some customers, like low income customers, they deal with them through Hack and they can get like more than the average middle class homeowner would see. Because and that accesses like a special category of funds.
I mean, and going forward, I mean, it is the compact's intention to try to implement the state's goals on expanding heat pump uptake. But it may be the next 3-year plan where that actually gets funded through the energy efficiency money, and that's all stuff that's vigorously in play.
Mhm. And that's it's going to be the first 3-year plan that had the responsibility about carbon emissions too. So it'll be interesting to see what that 3-year plan turns out like. It's been drafted and we'll see what gets approved.
okay, so under this outreach and customer, there's 3 takeaways from there. First one is basically conducting outreach to consumers. We can certainly do that. Second one is promotional efforts. We can hold information meetings, pizza parties over at the senior center. Bob could get that for us, right, Bob? And
I hope so. I'm finding that my relationship with the senior center is being very, very difficult to establish. I thought I had set up my energy, consultation hours again, and today I went to the new milestones where we had decided a couple weeks ago, or before the thing went to bed, what time I would do the hours. And when I checked the milestones, which just must have appeared in the last day or two, anyway, it was available today, I'm not even in there. So, all that work I did earlier, in
Well, you're a
October,
trusted resource by the customers.
and nothing has happened on that. So, I talked to them. We decided on a day. It wouldn't be every week. It would be once a month now, and it's not in there. So tomorrow I'm going to get back on the phone to them and see what's happening.
well, I'm sure they'll welcome you back, Bob, with open arms.
Well, establishing relationships with people that don't seem to have, let me bite my tongue on that.
Okay, we'll let you. All right, so. And then, as I was saying at the end, they're low and moderate income consumers. That was something we were paying a lot of attention to in Solarize. So we'll probably have a lot of outreach information generated already that we can dig out and dust off. Okay, so question is future considerations. And I say, what have we accomplished since 2021? Well, we got the energy usage baselines for 2019 and 2020. We got the January 1, 2023 baseline for vehicles in Yarmouth. And I'd say during Solarize, we learned a lot about fact that we developed this complete Yarmouth housing stock segmented by energy type.
Mhm.
A fair amount of door-to-door canvassing. We developed outreach materials and we organized and held information sessions. So even though this wasn't directed at at least the chloride stuff wasn't directed at our annual operating plan, I think we picked up some good lessons learned and experience. So what are we positioned to do then? Personally, I think our best chance of success appears to be the electrification of vehicles in Yarmouth. School buses, unless as Sandra was saying, it's a tough road to hoe there. I don't know. Anyway, there seems to be potential for plenty of funding available if we can do that. The EV consumer base, there's several potential opportunities there to get funding to do some things. Again, mainly outreach type stuff, and then in the outreach and customer support. If we want to work with Mass CEC again, and if they're willing to work with us again, I don't know, maybe we burn that bridge. What do you think, Joyce?
Um, I, I, I think they'd be willing to. It might end up being different staff members. But I confess I would be really happy when Solarize Yarmouth, now evolved into Yarmouth Assistance Plan, is totally finished, and every person who wanted solar has solar on their roof. I confess my mind is still half wrapped around that as I contemplate all this future stuff.
Now,
So CEC has a set of specific grant programs that actually Susan Starkey, in her role as the co-chair of the Faith Communities Environmental Network, has gotten, is managing a program that is funded by CEC to do outreach to low-income households around weatherization and related energy conservation stuff. That is people may have heard of the energy cafes that are mostly being done through faith communities. There's actually one coming up on the 7th at St. David's in Yarmouth, where they have folks from the compact and folks they have trained. Currently Judith Holt from Sandwich is their kind of expert, who is apparently pretty good at explaining to people what's available for help in tightening up the house. But it is targeted. I mean, the grants are for programs that are targeted at lower income communities. It's not.
Is this Energy Cafe virtual, or is it an in-person event?
In person.
okay, well, moving on, discussion. I'd just like to say one thing in the discussion regard to electric vehicles. I think if we were to pursue something there, I think we should concentrate on hybrids. Everything that I've been reading in the general media indicates people don't like the purely electric vehicles. They're still afraid of them, that they can't, don't know where they're going to charge and stuff. And just based on what I heard here in since we got online here, Bob's looking at one and he's looking at a plug-in hybrid. And he mentioned Susan Starkey. Now, both of these people are active energy committee people and should be well informed. And both of them are looking at hybrids. So I, for one, am not going to go out and push people to buy an electric vehicle like we tried to push them to buy solar racks on their house. I've had enough.
Don't worry, they won't listen to us anyway. Where purchases are involved, they'll listen about weatherization.
I've got a a question for Sandy. How many students at DY drive to school and leave their cars in the parking lot at DY High School? You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I have it on another screen and my mouse won't go there. Anyways, that comes from the administration at DY. I never had anything to do with it in the maintenance end. There are quite a few, the back parking lot is filled, but not filled to capacity.
So
I was actually surprised. I've driven by the new middle school there on occasion, and it looks like their parking lot's full. I mean, how old are these kids in middle school? They're not.
no, I would think that's mostly teachers, Mike.
Right, that's not really a user-friendly parking area, but there's quite a few electric chargers on the side, but if you ever drive in there, there's not one electric vehicle in those spaces, even though it's posted for electric vehicles only.
uh,
Yeah, that'll change. I think that's at this point that's a carrot more than a stick. Those chargers that are in the parking lot there. I mean, it's an inducement to a teacher that lives off Cape to buy an EV and get free charging. Eliminate all energy costs for that vehicle. I mean, it seems to me if that's the way it's. I mean, do you have to pay for that electricity right now that's in those coming out of those chargers?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I've been gone for 2 years. I'm well, going on 2 years now. 1 year, 1.5.
Yeah.
I looked at the chargers when I was bringing our handouts and stuff over the day of town meeting, and I couldn't see that it had a pay capacity, but there might be one whereby teachers could sign up and have accounts, and there might be a wireless thing that would check when they were used, but there wasn't an obvious billing feature in the mechanical standalone part anyway.
So Joyce, I'm gonna suggest you poll the members here to find out who thinks we should be doing what they want to sign up for.
Well, you're giving the priorities here with the operating plan. Do you think that maybe one way forward, since you're interested in electrifying vehicles as a priority, do you think we should try to form some kind of local association of electric vehicle and plug-in hybrid owners? I mean, I think that would be people who would have a lot in common and who might be a good activist base, but who also, and this is totally self-interested, would provide an additional engineer for Energy Committee. Because obviously we have Amanda as town engineer, but we usually have 2 engineers as members, and that has not been the case in the last 2 years. But it seems to me if we had an informal group of those people in the background, they might be a big help with the electrification of cars. How about some feedback for Mike on the car electrification and what might help?
Well, I think his idea about concentrating on the on the plugins or just hybrids in general is probably good. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's a no-brainer to buy a hybrid now. I mean, particularly a plug-in hybrid where you have the option of, just being a plain old hybrid, or getting some of your power from a charger. You don't have to. I mean, the plug-in
difference in
operates
price? What's the difference
totally
in price there, Bob?
huh?
What's the difference in price for a plug-in versus a regular?
I have no idea.
It's a big jump.
So the plug-in is
Electric being much more.
the plug-in hybrid versus a normal hybrid, a non-plug-in hybrid.
Oh, that I don't know. Barry, do you have any sense on that?
I mean, at this point, there are so many options in each of the categories that there are. I mean, there are electric cars which are cheaper than gas cars after at least the subsidies, the incentives, both new and used. I think the broad statement that electric's always more expensive is the average electric vehicle being sold is more expensive than the average gas car being sold. But that's, largely about who makes up the current early adopter market for electric vehicles. They're buying pricier cars, but the range of options on the market is, all over the place. It's not by category, it's by model. A Bolt is relatively cheap. A Porsche Taycan is super expensive.
So I put up this summary sheet from the original plan. Just look at the aspirations column there. Reduce energy consumption within Yarmouth by 20%. I mean, we wanted to pursue this, that's probably something within our availability. Increase the use of renewable energy. I think we struck out on that. Achieve 1,000 zero emission vehicles in Yarmouth. Do they call hybrids zero emissions? Barry?
No.
No, they're not. I mean, it's like,
At all. In fact, you're only what are you adding? Maybe 50% to the miles per gallon efficiency, and so at best it's 1/3, as it uses 1/3 less gasoline than a regular gas vehicle.
So what we could do is take the number of electric vehicles, subtract them from the 1,000, then multiply the result by 2, and they'll say we get that many hybrids, then we satisfied our goal.
Oh,
I gotta say, the quantitative goals from the original plan strike me as they were pulled out of our ass, and that was the only reasonable starting point. But I wouldn't. I guess I'd suggest we not focus on quantitative targets that we kind of will both unlikely to be able to ever measure the outcomes and doesn't get us any closer to sort of what do we do to
How
make it.
about if we start working on chargers rather than vehicles themselves? Sort of work on the carrot. We've already gotten some indication that it's starting to happen. I mean, that the harbor, we know the Harborside Suites Motel has installed the chargers, and it was obviously not for the Haitian migrants that are being lodged there. The owner of that motel is thinking to the future when he goes back to being a regular motel, and he wants another amenity available to potential tourists who come here, which is that they, if they have an electric vehicle, they can charge their cars if they stay at his motel. And I assume if he's doing it, there's probably a lot of other people on the Cape, a lot of other motel owners on the Cape that are considering the same thing. It's an investment in the future for them. You know, like 25 years ago, I mean, 50 years ago, TV in the rooms was a incentive to come stay in our motel or something. Some, that would have to be 80 or 90 years ago.
You're aging us all, Bob.
Yeah.
No, one thing we can do is recognize Barry's point that that 1,000 was pulled out of the air. 1,000 zero emission vehicles, we can change that aspiration, tie it to the percent reduction in greenhouse gas emissions that the state is shooting for. Their number being by 2025, 18% less than what they created in 1990. Now, one of the things we can do is in that table that I included there, we have the 2020 greenhouse gas emissions for the state and the 2025. And you can look at those with regard to their percentages, and we can figure out, okay, if we use our 2020 baseline, then we can figure out what the percentage decrease for the town of Yarmouth should be in order to satisfy our fair share of the state's goal. We could figure that out, tie that aspiration number 3 to reduction in greenhouse gases instead of the absolute number of zero emission vehicles. Reaction?
Well, I think that seems like a reasonable way to approach it. And I don't see pulled out of our ass and aspirational as different things. I think we all have to come up with goals that seem very difficult to make much progress toward them. I spell aspirational now with 2 S's.
I mean, the state goal here strikes me as bizarre. It actually, the goal is to increase emissions significantly from 2020 to 2025 and then cut them by 2030.
That's an odd way to proceed.
Well, but it's, I mean, I think they're saying that they can't do. So, I mean, it's hard for me to think about caring about the tons of carbon dioxide equivalent that Yarmouth is going to produce as a motivator. It's like, I'm never going to know what it was, and I don't know what it is now. And I think the goal is to get more people to get electric cars, heat pumps, weatherize, and this the strategic question is, how do we do the outreach? I mean, as Mike said, we have done some. That was what the Solar Rise campaign was about. The thing, I guess, things like charging network, that's going to get done by the market and the government. It doesn't really relate so much to what people on the Cape are producing. That's mostly about tourists, because people who get electric cars are going to mostly charge at home. I mean, that's all the evidence is. 90% of everybody who has electric vehicles charges at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except when they go beyond you know, their out and back daily routine. You know, if they're taking a weekend trip or driving to Florida or driving to Cape Cod. I mean, we do have this, you know, 4-month window where we have an awful lot of cars which are not registered on Cape Cod being parked in motel parking lots. And to me, they're an obvious target, but they may already be on their way to doing it without any, any necessary pushing from us.
Well, you recall back under the state's strategy T5, under their support residential smart charging, two things they had there. One was to make installing home charging stations as affordable and convenient as possible for customers. That's the same thing we did for Solarize. And the other thing was building charging stations in apartment buildings. So, I mean, that's certainly something that's within our realm of possibility.
Mike, what would you think if we were thinking of the charging stations, of going after all the big condo developments, and for landlords going after Davenport Realty?
Well, the second bullet there I just read from was to support building charging stations in apartment buildings, support tenants who wish to charge at home. I mean,
But I
Right.
mean, specifically through condo boards and maybe through the business Davenport Realty, to try to do a special outreach that was not for the individual customers at that point, but for the powers that be who have a lot of say over other people's environment.
I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't know. Do you want to attack the tenants, or do you want to attack the owners? What if the tenants started demanding that the owners put charging stations in?
I guess I think it's not likely that people in rental housing own EVs or are in a position to press landlords for chargers, but I could be wrong. Oh, Bob, you're a landlord. How would you think of that?
I haven't thought about it at all, quite frankly.
So if your renter, Bob, demanded you put in a charging station, what would you do? Kick them out?
No, I would say, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to up the rent by $100 a month, to help pay for it. In other words, take a part of their savings as sort of in-kind rental income, as it were.
But would you be surprised if any of your tenants had electric vehicles?
Oh, yes. They're the kinds of people who have a different car every year because the last one didn't run anymore.
Okay, that seems, Mike, that seems to me an argument for kind of going to the landlords rather than the tenants, and like trying to sell the landlords on something that would be very attractive to tenants. Now, the only thing wrong with that is would-be tenants are desperate to find apartments, so it's unclear how motivated landlords are to improve anything. But I think condo associations might be worth it. Maybe a big outreach event for members of condo boards.
You have to be prepared to show them what the payoff is going to be for them.
That's true. Yeah.
Saying that people that rent condos can't afford to buy the electric vehicles, the hybrid vehicles. What are you going to do?
Well, I was thinking though, a condo association board would be owners.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's a pretty specific and intensive organizing challenge. I think a lot of people here know Sheila Place, who lives at Kingsway and has been banging her head against her condo board and the management company for 5 years to do almost anything, from solar to weatherization stuff, and it is it's driven her to the edge of madness that there just isn't an interest in the board. And I've talked to some condo owners in lower end condos in West Yarmouth who have talked about the potential advantages to the condominium association of installing solar just to offset some of the HOA costs, which seems like a brilliant idea, but is they've been banging their heads against these boards are basically volunteers. There's lots of internal politics in every condominium association. If you could hire a full-time organizer to spend their time going around to the Yarmouth condos and working them for a couple of years, you might get somewhere, but it's not a casual conversation. I think you've got to deal with each condominium as a little town, and it wouldn't be. I'm just thinking about what we have, what the Energy Committee, has the capability of doing, and it seems to me broader outreach that is less. That doesn't need to be quite as targeted to find. We need to find 20 people at Kingsway to carry this. That's a lot harder.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I take back the suggestion, Mike. I was apparently making it Mount Everest for our first hill.
You need almost 50% of the tenants to have such vehicles, or they would approve the extra cost of putting in these charging stations. Anyway, okay, so I don't know how we're going to proceed, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I think what I would suggest is anybody that wants to get involved in this, send a note to Joyce and I about what you think should be done and what you think you can actually participate in. Do that offline. We won't embarrass anybody.
Okay.
We can cogitate and maybe come back next month's meeting with some concrete ideas. I mean, you've presented us with some ideas about where. I mean, I don't think we were going to rewrite this thing in a day.
Well, I mean, one of the things we could do is continue with this until, for what, a year and a half, until the end of fiscal year 2025. What's that? June 30th of 2025, right? So a year from this June, and just claim success.
What the?
What we want to do for the next 5 years.
I don't think this is rocket science. I mean, I talked with folks, I think the last meeting, the meeting before, about the notion of the Decarbonize campaign, of an outreach strategy, a series of public events to try to get in front of as many audiences in Yarmouth as we can, to talk to people about the advantages and the importance of the whole range of clean energy stuff that people can do: weatherization, solar, heat pumps, EVs.
You have funding available to help support that?
I mean, minimal, like to produce literature, but we don't have paid staff. I mean, the notion is this is going to have to be driven by volunteer efforts. But as you noted, the Solarize campaign did a fair amount of outreach without any paid staff.
Oh, but you have to produce materials. Do you have monies to pay, basically pay for that, or does it come out of your individual volunteers' pockets?
No, I mean, the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative, spent the money to print 5,000 decarbonized brochures. If we need more, I think they'll fund producing materials that people are going to use. And the compact is willing to provide resource people to speak. We don't have to kind of invent the wheel, but we need, we need somebody to be driving, creating the events. We talked about doing one at the senior center. Sounds like in June, but there are a bunch of neighborhoods in Yarmouth. I'd love to see us do more of it, I think the conversation should focus on, how do we get invited to talk to groups of Yarmouth residents? But it is, I don't think there's a meaningful way to say, we think as a result of this, we will get 800 heat pump installations and 600 EVs in people's garages. The quantitative goals there's no basis for judging, and we won't know how much of a difference whatever contacts we have with people made to their decisions. The premise is that the more people know about the advantages of clean energy and the importance of doing it, the more chance there is they'll think about it.
You're not going to try to do anything to measure how successful you were?
I don't think there's a meaningful way to know whether our contact with somebody is why they put in a heat pump. It's going to presumably be one of many factors in their decision. We may be, for some people, the thing that gave them a thought and provoked them to do it. We may be, the thing that nudges it over the line for somebody who's already thinking about it. But I don't know how you know whether we were the reason they did it. I mean, the Solarize program, we were the vendor, so we knew who our customers were, and there was a one-to-one correspondence between people who signed up and installed solar. But we're not talking about being the supplier for this broader effort. I mean, if you can think of a way to quantify it, I don't object to quantifying. I just don't think it's going to be real.
Well, I think EV chargers is one area where you could quantify it. And once again, I think of it as a carrot rather than a stick. Also, I'm enjoying this conversation between the engineer and the lawyer. Over quantity
Painter,
and
Bob,
quality.
painter.
A painter, okay. The painter and the engineer, one interested in quality as he defines it, the engineer interested in quantity as he defines it. I think we have to find a happy medium between the two, where areas where we can have quantitative goals, we should have them, and areas where we have qualitative goals, where that would be better, then have them as well.
I'm going to suggest that unless we get seed money from some of these organizations that I highlighted, we probably won't do anything. And in order to get the seed money, they're going to say, what are you going to do with it? And to me, you got to establish some kind of a goal.
Yes, I don't think not setting goals is the issue we're discussing now. I think that the issue is at this point is coming to a happy medium between those which you can quantify and those which you can qualify. You know, producing a pamphlet or an event, those to me are those are quality things, although you can attach numbers to them, obviously, but they are not the end quantities that you want. In other words, the money we used was for outreach, but in the end, what our success was measured by the number of contracts that were signed
Correct,
for Solarize.
correct.
But we didn't say, you know, our goal is 60 homes with you know, photovoltaic arrays on the roof. You know, we said we would hold such and such a number of events and distribute a certain number of pamphlets that we created, etc.
If you recall early on that, when we kind of put it to Lisa at CEC, you know, how many do you think we need to get installed in order to be successful? She wouldn't give a number. She wouldn't give a number.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to suggest that we take this up again next meeting, and that everybody write individually to Mike by email by January 25th with some ideas. And then that we meet that first week of February and take this up again. I think it's, you know, it's a tough one, but I think if we go away and think and have some more ideas, we've got Mike's outline right in front of us, and we've got Mike's nudge to motivate us. And I think that we should go, you know, shake those two up together and see what comes out of it. Mike, a huge thank you to you for all this work. I mean,
Yeah, yes.
really
I mean, having this document in front of me it gives me a way of sorting out my ideas and the things that I think are important. Absolutely terrific.
Hey, Joyce, since you are the most politically connected, can I ask you to look at those bolded programs and see what you can find out about them with regard to funding available, when you have to apply to get a grant, all that sort of stuff?
okay. I'll take a look.
There was what, maybe about
Will do.
four of them. You could start with CEC since you're well known there. Maybe don't mention my name, that's all.
I'm sure that they will be delighted when there comes a month when they get no email from anyone in Yarmouth. That will be their happy month.
Is Lisa still involved?
Yes, I mean, she's running different programs because Solarize Mass is over, but yeah, she's still there.
Okay,
Okay, so anyway, so we'll come back to this. Send ideas or reactions or thoughts to Mike by email by January 25th. Are you going to be in Maui then, Mike?
I am.
Oh, okay. But you'll be checking email every once in a while, right? From a outrigger or something.
Daily.
Daily. Okay. Okay. Then we just have one more item on tonight. No, two more items on tonight's agenda. One is the reorganization of Energy Committee for 2024, and the other is member items and suggestions for future agenda items. I realize we're almost to 6, so if you do want to postpone those to the next meeting, that's fine. But we will have to have a catch up with those if we do that.
A question: have you? Is there an active search on at all for new members, new committee members?
Yes, and I have two Solarized Yarmouth customers who are actively considering applying.
So you've
One's,
been, re-
one's an IT person and the other is an environmentalist. But we still need an engineer. I mean, you know, because Mike can't do all the engineering. I mean, we got to have a pair.
yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
we'll just clone Mike.
Motivation for your two Solarize candidates? Is it to come in here and shake things up?
I think it's to find out where we all live and, you know, eliminate us. No, I didn't say that. Okay. So they're both quite sensible about how individuals can do more than they're doing, and I think they'd be good at that. And the IT guy in particular would be a big help to you, Mike, in tracking things if we find out how to track them.
You know, one thing also I wanted to bring up, I forgot, but when I was going through stuff to put this thing together, of course, I went on the town website and
Mhm.
Specifically the energy committee, so that needs to be updated. It's ridiculous. I see Sandra squirming.
Yeah, I'm squirming because I tried to get on there. They've done all changes on the website. I have no idea how to get on anymore. Amanda, I don't know if you can put me in the right direction, but they've taken, I think, all my privileges and it's completely different and there's no training. I asked to go to training and it just is dead.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely have to follow up. We can touch base.
Content on the energy committee references two projects. What were they, back in 2014 or even before that? The street light project was one, and what was the other one?
That was when Roby was on our committee, back to Bubba Lair. But I've been trying to get onto the site. They've changed the whole way it's done in how you can do it. When that woman did the website, I have no idea what she did, but I can't get on. I've asked for training. They said that they were gonna call me. And nothing ever happened. And I don't know who to call anymore.
The other thing was I did a search on the website with the word energy. And
Mhm.
it brings up like 1,800 documents dating back to 2008.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do we really need all that stuff there? Cluttering it up, stick them in the archives.
Yeah, the search engine brings up all sorts of crazy things when you put in a keyword. I mean, you get things which are, I mean, I was doing that this afternoon when I was trying to sort some things out. The Yarmouth town website is not a user-friendly place to be.
And that was what they were trying to fix. When that, what was her name? I forget. But she was doing it and she was held back on some of the things. So I don't know what happened and what went in there. I talked to Paul to see if they were doing any training and he said he would be in touch, but I never heard another thing.
Hmm. Well,
So,
let's work on approaching Paul then, because that woman was just a consultant, right?
She was, but she was doing all the work and I think that there was some personality conflicts, but
Joyce,
That's at least 2 or 3 years ago, isn't it?
that is correct. I can check back with Paul, but Amanda, if you can maybe touch base with him tomorrow and then get me some leads as to where I can go, I'll go forward.
Okay, yeah, I'll touch base with you first and get all the history and then find out some answers.
Thank you.
And Amanda, remember, she wants training that works in high altitudes and north of Massachusetts, please. I actually would be interested in training on that too. I think we should have, a couple people who are able to do that, just so that some of us, when we go to, New Hampshire or Hawaii or whatever, can kind of figure that we can pass that task on, even though we're participating as energy committee members, but that while we're gone, somebody else will catch that.
Joyce, may I suggest that you move the candidate with the IT experience up to the top of the list for us? New member.
Okay, will do. And you know what? He's young too.
Oh, good.
He's even younger than Regina.
Is he younger than Amanda?
Well, no one is younger than Amanda. And she still looks young, even with those kids. God bless you, Amanda.
Thanks.
So, what do you want to do? Do you want to do the reorganization and member items now? Or do you want to switch to Board of Selectmen? What's your pleasure?
Guess I missed. What do we need to do for reorganization?
Officers, election of officers. The select board calls it reorganization. So this year I'm naming it, in that official sounding way.
Let's do that next month.
Okay.
I don't think we're ready for it today.
Do we have a nomination for anything? Is somebody volunteering to come back? Hint, hint, Joyce. Hint, hint, Mike.
I hear deafening silence. Maybe people will be more willing to jump in at the start of the next meeting.
Barry, are you interested in a position?
Not that I know of.
Could we make you interested in the position?
Look, I think everybody who's on the line today would do a great job, and I'm not wedded to being chair if somebody else would like to be chair. So if we're going to take this up next month, think about whether you would like to be chair of Energy Committee and see how that works with your life and your identity.
Okay,
Is a motion to turn in order?
I believe so.
Moved.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
hi.
I,
Nays, abstentions. It was unanimous. Okay, lovely to see you, everybody. Happy New Year. Sandy, keep warm up there. Mike, thanks for all the good work, and we're going to go in your checked bags with you to Hawaii.
And Amanda, we'll talk this week or whenever.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Amanda. Have a good night.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
yes. Okay.